Episode 2, The Soldiers Who Suffered. Welcome to Pete's World of Poisonous Plants. In Episode 1, we ventured deep into the Australian rainforest to uncover the dark origins of the Gympie-Gympie bush, a plant so cruel it's been called the devil's toilet paper. In this episode, we return to that same jungle, but this time through the eyes of the men who fought there. Soldiers who came face to face with nature's most excruciating weapon, and learned the hard way that some enemies can't be shot, only survived. This is the horrifying story of one unsuspecting soldier whose desperate mistake led to a pain so unbearable, he chose to end it himself. A true tale of agony, legend, and the leaf that makes even the toughest men scream. Australia, 1941. The air hangs thick, humming with insects and tension. Deep in the northern rainforests, Allied troops are being forged in the fiery crucible of jungle training. They sweat, they curse, and they swat at mosquitoes the size of small birds. It's paradise, but a paradise with fangs. And lurking among the ferns is an enemy no rifle can stop. It's the Gympie-Gympie tree, a silent assassin disguised as harmless shade. Now these soldiers were warned about everything: snakes, malaria, even crocodiles. But nobody thought to mention the shrub that could make a grown man scream for his mother. One humid morning, a young trooper, let's call him Jack, disappears behind a curtain of vines. He's armed with a rifle, a can-do attitude, and just enough jungle training to think he knows which leaves are safe to wipe with. Moments later, a sound rips through the camp that no one ever forgets. It's a single gut-wrenching howl that cuts through the rainforest chatter like a siren. When his comrades find him, he's pale, shaking, his eyes wide with a mixture of agony and disbelief. He'd used the wrong leaf. They rush him to the medics, but there's precious little anyone can do. The pain, they said, was beyond morphine, beyond reason. It felt like every nerve in his body was simultaneously on fire and being electrocuted. He begged for it to stop, but in the cruelest twist imaginable, it didn't. The agony pulsed for days on end. It would fade slightly, only to return in agonizing waves that tormented him for weeks. The story spread through the camps like wildfire. "Don't touch the shiny heart-shaped leaves," the soldiers warned each other, "and for God's sake, don't wipe with them." That one grim, fateful mistake became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires and in field hospitals. Officially, the incident was logged as an unfortunate contact with local flora. Unofficially, it became terrifying proof that the Australian jungle didn't need bullets to take you down, and he wasn't the only one. Patrols regularly reported men accidentally brushing against the leaves while hacking paths through the dense, unforgiving undergrowth. Even a single fleeting contact could render an arm completely useless. Some soldiers fainted from the shock of the pain. Others, in a desperate panic, clawed at their own skin, trying to dig out the source of the torment. Medics described the resulting rash as blistered, raised, and violently inflamed, a wound that looked like a severe burn, yet stubbornly refused to heal. The soldiers gave it names: the stinging bush, the suicide plant, or most commonly, just that bloody tree. One veteran later wrote in his journal that being hit by shrapnel was preferable. "At least shrapnel stops hurting after a while," he said. The tree just keeps thinking about you. Even the army's horses weren't spared. After brushing against the leaves, they would bolt madly through the brush, eyes rolling in terror, completely uncontrollable. For a logistics corps already battling heat stroke, tropical diseases, and the constant threat of the Japanese advance, a plant that could incapacitate a mule was the ultimate insult added to injury. The medical officers, desperate for a solution, tried everything they could think of: calamine lotion, vinegar, even dousing the affected skin with surgical alcohol. Nothing worked. Eventually, some old bushmen offered a more radical solution: burn off the microscopic stinging hairs with a flaming rag soaked in lighter fluid. Desperate times, as they say, call for desperate measures. A few soldiers swore it helped, or at least distracted them from the original pain. Others said it only added a new, fiery flavor of agony to the existing one. And through all of this chaos and suffering, the plant just thrived. It watched, patient and perpetually green, as entire armies came and went. The rainforest eventually swallowed their abandoned camps, but the Gympie-Gympie stayed exactly where it had always been, quietly waiting for the next curious hand or unsuspecting victim. After the war, researchers returned to these jungles to document the stories. One found a field medic's notebook containing detailed sketches of the rash. The annotation beside it was simple and chilling. Pain beyond belief, do not touch. Another researcher managed to locate surviving veterans who, decades later, still flinched instinctively whenever a leaf brushed against their sleeve. One man swore he could still feel phantom shocks, like tiny electric jolts running up his arm whenever it rained. Today, the tale of that doomed soldier has become a chilling part of botanical folklore, a stark reminder that nature doesn't need to roar to be terrifying. Sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that stand quietly in the shade, pretending to be harmless. And yet, despite all the misery it's caused, human curiosity remains undefeated. Scientists have since captured the Gympie-Gympie, locking it away behind greenhouse glass, poking and prodding it with tweezers, all in the name of progress. They are desperate to understand what makes this simple leaf so uniquely cruel. They want to know if that same wicked chemistry could one day be harnessed to ease human suffering instead of causing it. But that is a story for our next episode. Because while the soldiers of World War II discovered the pain of the Gympie-Gympie, it's the scientists of today who finally uncovered the reason. They found the molecules, the toxins, the twisted evolutionary genius that turns a simple leaf into a biological weapon. So, join me next time as we dive under the microscope to meet the true villains of this story, the venomous compounds that make the Gympie-Gympie the most excruciating plant on Earth. Until then, remember, in Australia, even the greenery holds a grudge, and if a leaf ever looks too soft, too inviting, or too good to be true, it probably wants to hurt you. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what ES coming next. See you then.